live. All right. Dr. John is here. Very good. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to our multiple meetings today for the Glens Falls Public Authorities. And we're going to start with the Glens Falls Industrial Development Agency. This is our annual meeting, and we're going to have committee meetings first, 3 committee meetings. Then we will do the annual meeting, and then we do have some monthly business, and we'll do a monthly business meeting. And so to start with, let me just announce that we have a full quorum here. All members are here, except one person absent is Mary Gooden. Otherwise, all members are here, and we're also joined by our staff and key advisors and consultants. And no guests, at least not right now, but maybe online. So thank you all for being here with us today. Just for the audience too, after this, I think we're going to do the Glens Falls Civic Development Corporation board meeting, then the Glens Falls Local Development Corporation board meeting, and then the Glens Falls Urban Renewal Agency board meeting. And so that is a busy day for us, and one of our key advisors here today, Jean Lapper, our accounting firm representative, is here, and we have several audits that have come in that we've had time to review, and so Jean will be talking about that as part of our meetings. So let's start with the Glens Falls Industrial Development Agency nominating committee, and we basically have proposed staying the same as this past year, with myself serving as chair, Mary Gooden as vice chair, Denise Conklin as treasurer, Dr. John Cordes as secretary, Jeff Flagg as our CEO, Mark Toomey as our CFO, and Kara Leas as our counsel. Any comments, questions, changes at all on that? If not, I would accept a motion to accept that election of officers for the board.
Okay, well, you're right. You can't participate in the motion because you're on
Right.
it. Right. Okay. So I will move to accept the slate of officers.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you. And we'll move that forward to the
Yeah, we're the
annual
only
meeting.
ones who could do that, Billy.
Yes.
We're the only ones who aren't on that list. Okay, great. Tim.
What a kingmaker
Tim's like,
you are.
right, exactly.
The committee appointments, and this is for our next fiscal year, which is starting March 31st in just a few days. So we would have a nominating committee, an audit committee, and a governance committee. For the nominating committee, we would have Bill Collins as chair, Jane Reed, Mary Gooden. For the audit committee, we would have Denise Conklin, Bill Collins, Dr. John Cordes, and of course our key staff serving in non-voting roles. And governance, we would have Mary Gooden as chair, myself, and Tim Larson. Is there a motion to approve these committee appointments? Again, I would
So moved.
Yep.
so moved in a second.
And we're all on these committees, so second, right?
Any changes? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
It is carried. Thank you. So we're going to go right to the audit committee and independent auditors report for 2024. And Jeff, I don't know if you have anything to add. I'm going to turn it right over
Nope.
to Jean Lapper.
Nope.
Okay.
Jean?
All right.
And
Good
this
morning,
is-
everyone.
Good
This
morning.
is the IDA.
Those in the back. Okay, yeah. I think I have.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you, Judy. Well, thanks. It's nice to be here again on the annual meeting. And I want to thank Jeff and Mark for making it easy to do the work. And so I think all of you have received a copy of the independent auditor's report on financial statements. So I'll bring your attention just to the first page where we're required to report on the financial statements, and that the financial statements basically have, received an unqualified opinion, where it says, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of Glens Falls Industrial Development Agency as of December 31st, 2024, and the respective changes in financial position and cash flows thereof in accordance with GAAP. Okay, so there's other required information or required communication that we, lay out, and nothing has really changed. So we lay out the responsibilities of the auditor. We send out a letter explaining the requirements of the agency, and that basically we're, in accordance with government auditing standards, that we're also required to report on internal control, which I will get to that. So if you look at the some of the key things that usually on page 4 is the management discussion. So remember, these are your financial statements. The accounting firm, the auditors really just provide the required communication, so the opinion letter and then the communication on internal control. Basically, there wasn't a lot of activity in the IDA this year. We didn't have any adjustments. There was some different new investments this year, so there's a little bit of extra earnings on investments that you hadn't had in the previous years. If you go into the footnotes, if you go into the footnotes, you have some, excuse me. So if you see, like, cash went up because he did receive some agency fee this year, $70,000. So that was, and everything else is pretty much the accounting and accounting auditors, internal accounting, and the CEO's wages. So overall, the IDA is in pretty much the same position, other than it had a little bit of income this year. In the notes, we summarize the accounting policies. There weren't any changes, so I don't think we need to go through any of that. And then the last page discusses internal controls, and we provided a report on internal controls, and basically in planning, we say what we look at. We didn't find any deficiencies, so everything was good in that respect as well.
Yay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like trying to make something out of nothing.
Right. But we're always happy when that's what your job is. Right.
Yeah, Judy, you had a question.
No, I was just going to say, this is really the audit committee right now that is reviewing this, and Denise chairs that. And I don't know that you need to necessarily vote on it, but you can move it forward if you want for the annual meeting for it to be approved.
Would you like to do that now?
Yeah, unless there's questions or comments that people want to make.
No.
But the report's gonna get filed, not just on our website and to the city government website, but it'll also be posted on the ABO or the state website too.
Yep.
So
So I can ask for a motion for this to be approved and move forward as
great.
As presented.
As presented.
As presented.
So moved.
second?
Second.
All
So
in
the
favor?
language just is accepted. You're accepting
is.
it
Right.
because you don't get to approve what we do or not.
So true. That's why you're independent.
Exactly.
You don't get to approve it.
You can accept it or say, nah,
I
we don't.
disapprove
Yeah.
of it. Can I use that line somewhere else?
Right.
Maybe at home.
I have a different role.
Tattoo it. Right, yes.
I think you already signed off on it.
Oh, yeah, well, I think you already.
She approves, that's right. Anyway.
Right, we approve.
So,
Accept,
I
sorry.
think you had a first, and you had a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay.
Report is accepted.
So right now, unless Denise, you have other issues, there's nothing more, I think, for, the audit committee to do.
There is not, so I ask for a motion to close the audit committee.
All right, so moved, or,
Yeah, right, second,
All in favor?
goodbye.
Thank you.
okay, so, Mary Gooden is not here, and so I am going to run this governance committee. The staff have gone through all of the ABO requirements. Jeff worked with us to make sure that the reports for performance goals and measurements, assessment of our effectiveness, a review of our internal controls, and all policies and procedures. All copies are attached for all of the members to see, and we're not recommending any changes. And based on this, the Paris report has been drafted, which would be reviewed again as part of our annual meeting. But the copies of those reports are there for you to take a look at this point. And in general, where is our, I just wanted to find our, so in terms of policies and procedures, we have 39. Most of these have been in place for many years. We've gone through them, and Jeff has gone through them again. I think the last time we actually had to make any significant changes was 5 or 6 years ago. And everything seems to be in very good shape. And I did this with Jeff last week, and so I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments on any of that. All of these reports are posted on our website and are available in print for anyone who may ask. I don't know, Jeff, do you want to add anything to that?
No.
Okay.
No. I was going to mention something else, but I'll get to that later.
Okay. We also did a review of the internal controls and assessment. It was also part of the audit, but separate and apart from that, in terms of staff looking at that. We've gone through all the bylaws as well as part of this, and are making no recommendations of changes to the bylaws or to the structure. Let's see. There's been no change in legislation that we're aware of that requires any change to the way we operate as an authority. Let's see. In terms of our schedule of bonds, there has been no change in that at all related to the IDA or the CDC for that matter, but we'll get to that. And we're not making any recommended changes to our mission statement, at least not at this time. And there's a full list here also of kind of a summary of all of the major activities that we did over the last year, over 2024, including the work that was done that did receive some financial benefit to the IDA for the projects on South Street. Let's see. There's the pilot agreement was implemented, I believe, with Crew Coffee. Has that been finalized yet?
Not yet.
No, we did not close that yet?
No.
No, that hasn't closed.
So that started in 2024, and we hope we'll finish in 2025. But that was also a major activity, was the City of Glens Falls sale of the property at Tech Meadows that will result in the what we believe will be additional tax benefits that we will approve for Crew Coffee for this new manufacturing facility that will be at Tech Meadows. And it's been sometime since the city's been able to sell one of those properties,
Yeah,
so
just
there
just
was
a
a significant, I
quick
think-
correction, that's a LDC property, so
I'm
not a city
sorry.
property.
Not city,
Yeah,
LDC
yeah.
property. Yep. And that's all I've got, under governance. Any questions?
I just say one quick thing as a sort of note. You know, as Gene mentioned, as you were just alluding to, you know, the IDA hasn't had to do, I say it hasn't done a huge amount of activity, hasn't had a huge amount of activity in the last really couple of years. The notable exception being, of course, Panaccio down on South Street, and obviously the Tech Meadows properties. That would sort of lead one to think that there's not a lot going on in Glens Falls, you know, when you have an agency like this that's not doing a lot, which of course, as everybody here knows, is nothing could be further from the truth. There's activity going on all over the place. You know, I tend to think of the IDA, I think of it as a sort of an enabling authority. And when you don't have, you know, when you have financial obstacles, right, that's really what our role is, to sort of fill these kinds of gaps. That's the situation, of course, on South Street. That's the situation in trying to get people, you know, to be able to make those additional investments on Tech Meadows. We're looking at several other properties, right, that have, and almost all of them are either restorations or demolitions involved. You know, we've been talking to Foothills, who's trying to get going over here on Warren Street. Of course, I've been approached by Chris Patton about his projects on South, especially as he gets more embroiled in them and sees really what he's got. He's actually, the April 9th or 10th meeting might be helpful, because I know he wants to sort of come and sit down and share the challenges he's had. And then, of course, there's been a lot of discussion in the last year or so about, you know, the need for historic preservation as we have all these projects take over, and how valuable things like not only historic tax credits, but also things like tax benefits you can get from the IDA. So I think it's sort of a testament to the city in general, and the support of the Common Council in sort of enabling a lot of the things that are happening in Glens Falls. But, you know, in many ways, the fact that there's so much going on, and that the IDA has not been asked, you know, everywhere, every project, oh my God, we can't make this work, sort of tells you about what kind of shape financially and economically the city is in general. You know, there's this much going on.
Yeah, many of these projects are moving forward with private financing and did not need to come through this.
Yeah, and the help we give, I don't want to call it surgical, and that's a little overstated, but I mean, it's, you know, there are projects that have these particular problems, and they especially seem to do with rebuilding, and you got to tear something down, and you have all these added costs of doing this. You've got some sort of latent brownfield problems that add costs, you know, or you're trying to maintain the historic integrity of these things. So, I think it's a testament to this board, actually.
Okay. All right. So, in terms of all of these reports, they're gonna come before the full board at the annual meeting, so I'm not gonna ask for any vote at this point in time for the governance committee, since our chair's not here, and it's basically Tim Larson and myself. But I don't think that we need to vote on these as part of a committee, other than to recommend that we move them forward to the full board for the annual meeting. If you're okay with that, I'm good with that.
I'm good.
You're good? Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm gonna close down the governance committee. Tim, motion to move that,
Make a motion.
close that. Very good. Thank you. So, I am now gonna open up the annual meeting of the Glens Falls Industrial Development Agency. And, we just had all of our committee meetings, and we have already approved at the committee level several items, and we'll go forward and approve them again as part of this annual meeting. First is the election of officers and the committee appointments. Is there a motion to approve? Well, let me say for the record that that list of officers is here on our agenda for the day, and the nominating committee has met and done the election of officers and committee appointments recommendations for the coming year, which starts March 31, 2025 and goes through to March 31, 2026. Any changes? There being none, is there a motion to approve the election of officers and the committee appointments?
So moved?
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays, any abstentions? There being none, the officers are elected and the committee appointments are made, and we'll move that forward starting next month. I believe everyone has a copy of the Paris report. It's a combined report that includes all 4 public authorities that are meeting here today, and there are separate sections for the IDA. The report itself, I don't believe this report, the way it's presented here, is actually presented to the state. It's broken up into the 4 parts and posted digitally into their system. But this is what will be reported if we as a board agree to it. And so you will see the separate sections for IDA, and that's the most relevant for what we are discussing at the moment. And so it includes our operations and accomplishments for this past year. It identifies the financial report, which will separately be approved. It acknowledges that we'll be making no changes to our mission statement. It acknowledges that there were additional bonds taken into place in 2024. It acknowledges our compensation schedule for staffing, and it does talk about the projects that were undertaken, which is similar to the first part of the report. And it acknowledges that there was no issues with our code of ethics. And then the assessment reports for internal controls, and that we're making no changes to any of our internal control procedures. No changes to our bylaws, and no changes to our operations and programs. We've already previously approved our 5-year budgets, and we're not going to be making changes to those at this time, but those are things that this board has previously approved and are already posted to Paris, but there's no updates or changes to those at this time. And then each of the board members have either been asked or will be asked to do an evaluation form and to send that back to Suzanne for our,
We did that.
and did that get done, Suzanne?
Yes.
It did. So we have all, very good. And so we are up to date on board performance evaluations, and that is basically it. And so if there are any questions or changes, if not, I'm gonna ask for a vote to pass the Paris report that was presented for the IDA.
You're gonna try and do this piecemeal? I don't know that we can approve only a piece of the Paris report. Can we
We could
approve
approve it
the
as
Paris?
a body, yes.
Yeah,
as
the Paris
presented.
report, yeah.
As a whole?
As a whole, yeah, because you can't piecemeal it out, you can't.
Sure.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
I move to approve the Paris report.
Very good. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Paris report is approved. And we'll carry that vote through to each of the board meetings. The member attendance report is here. I don't know that we need to approve it, but everyone's got a copy of it. It's reflective of each of our board meetings over the last year. Did anyone see any changes or issues with that? If not, that will be reported to the state as well through the ABO. And then we do have our mission statement and performance measurements. Everyone has a copy of that as well. I will call for a vote on that unless there's any changes. There being none, is there a motion to approve the mission statement and performance measurements as presented?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It is approved, thank you. The the assessment of the effectiveness of internal controls policy. Again, we're not making any recommendation for any changes, and that policy is here. Is there any questions about that? Any proposed changes? There being none, is there a motion to approve the assessment of the effectiveness of our internal controls policy?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? There being none, the motion is carried, and that report will also be filed. In terms of existing policies and procedures, we're calling for no changes. I think, what did I say, there's 37? So, I don't know that we need to vote on that. We're not making any changes unless the members are asking for changes. There being none, the existing policies and procedures will remain in place throughout the year and will report to the ABO that there are no changes. The independent auditors report, Jane Lepper has made that presentation. Everyone has a copy of it. The committee has already moved it forward to this full annual meeting. Are there any questions? Any proposed changes? There being none, this one, upon approval, this will be posted to the State of New York's website and to our website. Is there a motion to approve the independent auditors report
Accept
for
the
2020?
independent auditors.
Yes, to accept.
Accept the independent
Accept
auditors.
the report.
Now she's the lawyer.
We're very accepting.
We are, so you're moving that we accept.
I do.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The report is accepted. Thank you very much, Dean. We've already done internal controls and procedures, and there's no changes. We do have the form ST62 that I think I need to sign at the end of the meeting here today. I don't have a copy of it, but I will sign it as soon as I have that. Is there a motion, a printed copy of that? Is there a motion to approve the STA
ST
62 report for fiscal year 2024?
I move that we authorize Judy Calagero to sign the 2024 ST62 on behalf of our agency.
All right. Is there
I
a
will second
second?
that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? There being none, it's carried. Thank you. Any other business to come before the IDA's annual meeting? There being none, is there a motion to close the annual meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? There being none, we are closed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So I am now going to open up the March 2024 monthly meeting for the Glens Falls IDA. As you know, we have a full quorum. I'm going to turn it right to Jeff. Jeff, any kind of report that you want to make for this month?
Yeah, just a couple of quick things, actually. So, as everybody knows, should know, we had a meeting last, the city, the mayor sort of organized a meeting, a DRI update meeting, a couple different sessions. We had some decent turnout for that. It was also recorded for those who couldn't attend. Among the people who did attend were Steve Liccardi and Mike Keswick from Bonaccio, who just wanted to sort of give us an update. One of the things I was anxious to have them do was to sort of show some of the challenges that they had. I was alluding to a little bit ago, you know, that when you take these historic buildings, the amount of work. This body knows through the LDC, of course, and its previous ownership of two of these buildings, what kind of condition they were in and how long they've been vacant, and the cost of just carrying, you know, vacant buildings and city stock, not just to the properties themselves and the cost, but also the attendant dereliction, I guess, of the street. So they're looking as they're sort of on schedule, and I say sort of because, you know, we're looking at late fall to have those buildings largely completed. The city is working through with the LDC to sort of coordinate the 36 Inc. We'll maybe talk about that when we get to the LDC meeting, but they're really on schedule still with that. We're having some delays with the new buildings. It's not an IDA project, so it's not particularly germane to this conversation. But things are moving forward, and you've seen there's a lot of activity on South Street. And we think the bulk of that, right, with the exception of this new building, will be done by the end of the year. So I think we'll have, and we're taking some recordings and taking photos and making sure we can document some of this stuff so we can sort of identify the progress that's been made. The other thing is, out on Tech Meadows,
Let me just
Oh, I'm
add to
sorry, go ahead.
that, the state had a state official come to that meeting, Darren Scott, who is, covers this whole region, and he was there and present for that meeting, and then stayed after and did a tour of all the properties, and we did that, with him. And they were very, very pleased with that. And what he continued to raise, which was that the total DRI for the city of Glens Falls, all of the projects combined, have generated a little bit over $50 million in total
Private.
Investment.
private
Investment.
and some public investment. And that was significant to them, and they're doing these downtown revitalization projects all across the state, and this is, I guess, one of the largest in terms of its total investment that they're seeing, at least in the region that this Darren Scott is covering, and so that was impressive. But I did have to put on one of those hats and go into those buildings, but we had a meeting with
bet
him
you were
afterwards. It was.
Did we get a photo of that?
It
Judy
did
or Hart,
something. It did.
she took the film and ripped it out.
It did something to my hair, but that was very good too. That happened. And,
Yeah, it's worth noting, and this has been covered in a number of forums, but from the state's perspective, this $10 million investment has ended up with a like a 4x investment. if you're
And
talking
that's what they were looking for when they invented this
about- and when you
program.
talk about this,
Weren't they looking for a 1X though?
Yeah.
well, it's funny because
It's
they
time-
don't
over time.
require any match for any of these.
Right.
These grants don't require it, but there's an understanding that if they don't leverage other public and private investment, it's failed. I mean, they don't say it quite like that, but the idea is that that's what it is. It's a catalyzing grant project. And so you look at the 4 times investment from the state's perspective, it's about a 12 or 13 times leverage when you look at the city's overall investment of, probably end up being about $4 million. So when you look at $51 million on 4, that's substantial. So I think it's it's an overused phrase to call it a win-win, but really it's a win-win-win,
Yeah.
right? City, state, private investment.
And it was pretty amazing to go into these historic buildings and see some of the things that are being preserved and saved, including the ceilings and the
Yeah.
windows
Yeah.
and.
The handwork of
Yeah.
Sandy's, all
Yeah.
the windows
Yeah.
are being redone because of the cost for the HCR, for the tax credits, right?
Yeah, the
They're
historic
literally
tax credits.
redoing the woodwork
Right.
in the building. It's just, wow, you go, oh my God.
And the to be inside the market center too, is it's not done mostly because of the
periphery, yeah.
the what do you call it?
Well, the periphery,
The periphery
lot of-
work, because the weather conditions that
Asphalt.
macadam asphalt is not ready to be delivered yet, but the inside is almost basically done, and you guys, it is truly very, very nice. The wood in there is very impressive.
Yeah.
Since you're mentioning that, just so you can all put that on your calendar, I believe it's May 16th at 3 p.m. is ribbon cutting. We're hoping that Darren Scott from HCR and the governor and PSD, we're trying to get everybody there. We're also in the process of engaging local restaurants to join us because we want it to be a celebration of all the city of Glens Falls, not just this project. So we have a committee of people working on that. So I want to make sure you're all aware. We're going to have a community party afterwards from 5 to 8 with some music and stuff, but this groundbreaking is 3 p.m. on that Friday, the 16th.
And they're doing a very good job in terms of connecting 36 Elm to the Leaf, I call it the Leaf Building, the Market Center. There's gonna be a very nice pathway between the two, from the back door, the back doors, if you will, to get through to those properties, and it's very good close proximity, and there's gonna be a very good connection, and that part of the construction, I don't know if you saw that, is already underway too, so.
Jeff, would you like to announce what the new name of the building is? Because we felt that the leaf was not a permanent, although that is the shape.
Yeah, well, yeah, you might, then nobody have the egg and then you have the leaf, that didn't sound like, you know. So, we had come up with an idea of calling it the, sort of, because what it's really designed to do is to encourage events downtown. So we're gonna, you know, if we call it the Events Downtown Center, then you could call it the ED.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Thank you.
appropriate to call the ED.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
In
Thank
honor of
Mr.
that Bartholomew
Bartholomew,
as well.
right?
The Ed.
The ED,
The Ed.
Events Downtown Center, the ED.
Yeah,
Very
okay.
good.
All right, I'll stop with the Leaf.
No, you can do it. I just thought it was
We
kind
got
of
the
funny.
egg, we got
because-
the ED, you know. we
Because
got-
after much back and forth, and we wanted to make sure that we gave credit to one of the driving forces behind this entire project, and make sure that we were recognizing the heritage that comes with this area and its redevelopment.
Yeah.
The ED.
The ED, that's great. Okay, anything else on
Sorry,
that? Just
yeah.
very, that's okay, just very briefly, then I just wanted to talk to Karen, I think you can confirm or refute this, but as far as the allusion to crew, there's nothing left for us to do, right? They're waiting for their financing.
Right.
We've just gotten an update from Kyle
Yeah.
Brock about a week ago.
They're just working through their financing. They have to have a phase one on the site. They've got survey work they've got to do. Just, it's all standard requirements that would be required
Right.
by the SBA portion of the loan, so.
But there's
Easier to
nothing-
do when the ice pack is
Yeah.
out.
Correct,
So-
yes, when you
Yeah.
can actually get in,
Right.
yes, right.
But nothing at our end that we're.
No,
Right.
no, and we don't actually need to take any further action unless there's any changes to their project. And every time they ask me for an update, I ask if there's been any changes, so far none. So if they do say in between meeting schedules that they're ready to close, we'll just convene the appropriate people to sign and we'll close that.
Yeah, so
We
we've
don't need to
already
take further
previously-
action.
Great.
Any
We're
agency,
ready.
I mean,
Either one, LDC
Yep.
or the IDA, neither one needs
That'd
to.
be another
Yeah.
great
Further.
large feather in the 2024 cap.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay,
that's all I have.
that's it, thank you very much. And so in terms of our administrative reports, and we've got the minutes, everyone's got a copy from the February 20th, 2025 meeting. Any changes to that? Comments? There being none, is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. No nays, no abstentions?
I think I need to abstain, I wasn't here.
You weren't here. Okay, thank you. One abstention. So we have the financial report for month ending February 28th, 2025. Mark, any changes to that? Any comments?
Just income-wise, all we got was the initial payment from crew in January for $3,500 cash. And then expense-wise, just my January hours for 601, 40%. Everything else, anything else expense-wise was accrued for in December and needs to be properly reversed in 2025. Paris report, I need to load up the projects, the exemptions, and the certified audit, and then submit that this weekend.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, I believe we're good.
very good. And you're gonna be working this weekend?
Yeah,
All right. Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or tomorrow.
It's that
Right,
time
right.
of year.
It's only Thursday. What's wrong with that?
Okay,
It's more.
so, any questions for Mark? Any changes? There being none, is there a motion to approve the financial report for February 28th,
So moved.
2025? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is passed. No nays, abstentions, so we are good to go. Thank you. And we'll get that reported on our website. So payment of bills, Schedule A, we have 3 bills to pay for this month, Mark Toomey and Fitzgerald Morris Baker, for a total of $956.80. Is there a motion to approve the payment of bills as presented?
So moved?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? There being none, motion is carried and the bills will be paid. I guess I'll sign those. Any other reports? I don't think so.
Well, project report, just
Yep.
real briefly.
Yeah.
So you might remember at the last, excuse me, at the last meeting, the IDA approved some support for the ESD Smart Farm project that we roughly completed. Now I say roughly because we're just waiting for reimbursement. The city is from Empire State Development. The city council approved a resolution on Tuesday to transfer the assets to the IDA, which I would like to do mainly because it would make the process simpler of sort of arranging that. The assets really being the equipment that's in the farm itself. I'm gonna work with Kara to work up an agreement and have the board look at that and see if that works for everybody. Excuse me, but I think it would sort of be an easier transition from the IDA to private ownership. Probably, as I mentioned, we're going to try and shoot through the SUNY startup 80K process in the fall. But I'll have a sort of, might be helpful if we do have an April meeting because I'll have a further elaboration on that.
And you'll have a list of what the assets are,
Correct.
and you'll just bring the basil here for us.
Oh, but there's basil right now. I could have bought you off if I had known.
Okay. All right.
I vote for basil.
Right.
I could use some.
Yeah, we
Great.
could all use
Basil
some.
too.
Yeah, I break for basil, man.
And we've already talked about Market Center and
Yeah.
crew, and I don't think we need anything more unless people have questions. Very good. There's no other business that we have unless the members have something to bring forward. There's no need for an executive session. I will will motion to adjourn the monthly Glens Falls IDA monthly meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Let's see. Okay.
Kara,
CDC.
is one available to make copies?
Do
of the
CDC?
LDC that didn't get distributed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which one are we doing next then?
We're gonna do CDC.
All right.
It should be short, people.
Okay.
Just saying.
Yeah.
All right.
We don't do anything. It should be very short.
I know. So the Glens Falls, I'm calling to order the Glens Falls Civic Development Corporation. All our members are present other than Mary Gooden, and our staff and key advisors are here. We have some committees reports to do, and actually, let me just see.
We got nothing.
We've got the administrative reports. So let me just say that there are no changes being recommended for both our structure of our board, for structure of our committees. The Civic Development Corporation has not had new business in some time. It is basically an entity of the city that allows the issuance of bonds to not-for-profit entities. In the past, we did a bond with the hospital, which is closed, and we also did a bond with the Crandall Library, which continues and is in good shape, in good order, and there's no change to it. But the Civic Development Corporation remains in place with our board and with our key staff. And we do an annual audit. Even though there is no business, we are required by both the federal and state government to do this, and so it is done. And Jean is here today, and we'll do that in a minute. But that's our basically the work of the Civic Development Corporation at this moment in time. And so it's done very important work for the city in the past. I suppose there could be new business that could come before us, but as of right now, we stay in place because of the significance of the bond that's in place for the Crandall Library.
I just want to make a very quick statement. I know we got a lot of work to do, so I don't want to belabor this, but, you know, it was brought up, and I think maybe it was a conversation you and I had with Jean, talking about, you know, I know there's been some angst over the cost of audits, you know, every year for this entity that, you know, we have a bond that's been lingering out there for some years and will continue to. I think when you look at the few $1,000s a year that, you know, the CDC and or the city sort of through that spends, it may well be that along with, say, the roundabout downtown, that the expansion of the library that this bond enabled was one of the primary catalysts for growth in the downtown area.
Absolutely.
You know, and when you look at it through that lens and how much has happened and where that sort of fits, the central location, suddenly the few $1,000s that it costs for an audit doesn't seem like that big an investment. For the return that we've gotten and the benefits that accrued to the library directly and to the city indirectly from that. And if you look what's going on all around that area, now that it sort of acts as that hub, I think it's it creates a reasonable justification, right, for the costs that we incur.
Well, and if you recall, the expansion that was done at the library and the facilities that were brought into place because of it have allowed this community tremendous opportunity for special events and meetings in that place. It's probably one of the nicest, I think, public libraries in the whole capital region. And it is very busy, as you know, nonstop almost. So there is that as well.
Well, our DRI meetings a couple of weeks ago, a perfect case in point.
Yeah,
Ideal location
exactly,
for that.
exactly. And while the bond has been paid off, in part because of the merger between Glens Falls Hospital and Albany Med, but the expansion that was occurred at Glens Falls Hospital was also very significant and wouldn't have happened if it weren't for this corporation, if you will, and the work that was done. And I'm not sure that merger could have taken place if those improvements and updates hadn't been made. So, okay. All right.
We don't resent what you charge us for that. What we're really, that was the upshot is, you know, we appreciate you. Thank you. But we.
I don't take it personally.
So, I will come back and do, well, let's do the minutes first. We had a regular meeting held on January 9th, 2025, and everyone has a copy of that. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved?
Second?
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
No nays, no abstentions, there being none, the minutes are approved. And then before we do the financial report for February 2025, let us do the audit report, and let me turn this over to Jean.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Judy. Thanks, everyone. So once again, it'll be a lot of ditto from before and from last year. I could replay last year's meeting. Again, I'll direct you to our opinion, which you will accept. Or hopefully the board will accept. But we have found that, there's an unqualified opinion, so everything is presented fairly. That's the highest level of assurance you can have on your financial statements. As Judy alluded to, there really hasn't been any change since last year. And basically the only real transaction this year is that the city did forward some monies to the CDC to pay its bills, as opposed to creating all these payables and due-to-froms and give it enough money to pay the bills when they come. So the cash increased by $13,500 last year, which was all money that came in from the city. There is the shared personnel that's used between the IDA and the CDC, and that gets charged back, which was something that was changed like over the last 2 years. So that does show up as a liability. That has not been paid, so that still shows up as a liability on the balance sheet. Again, there's no changes in accounting policies. But I will just bring you to, the one note that does as Judy mentioned, the purpose of the CDC is to continue to, is that it did issue the bonds and the notes, and that there's still a note outstanding for $6.89 million for the library, and it's been paid every year, so that's reflected in the footnotes. And this note goes out to 2037, and the interest rate on it ranges between 2% and 5%. So even when rates got low, you know, and certainly under current conditions, you know, the CDC is serving its purpose in having that note. Again, at the end, we did our report on internal controls. We didn't find anything about internal controls, so everything. That's pretty much all there is.
Thanks, Jean. Any questions or comments? There being none, is there a motion to approve, is there a motion to accept the audit report as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried, and we will both file that on our website as well as get that posted to the ABO before the end of the month. Thank you. Mark, the financial report for ending February 28, 2025, anything to
No
report?
changes. As Jean said, based on that money we got from the city in December, we're able to pay the bills, from the audit and any legal fees in 2025. That's it.
Okay, thank you. The CDC is incorporated as part of the Paris report. We previously approved the Paris report, the same board members, and so that will get recorded as well, the pieces that relate to the Civic Development Corporation. There's going to be no change in any of our policies and procedures. We have 24 in place, and we're not recommending any change. There is a copy of the mission statement and performance measurements that everyone has a copy of. I am going to ask that you approve that. And as well as that, the internal control assessment statement reporting that that the procedures have been determined to be sufficient and adequate, and we're not recommending any changes. And so, could there be a motion to approve the mission statement and performance measurements, including the internal control assessment statement?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried, thank you. The members all have a report of our attendance for our meetings that were held of the Civic Development Corporation in 2024, and that is attached. There's no changes, I don't believe, and so that will be posted as well to both our website and the ABO. And I have no other business to come before the Civic Development Corporation unless you guys do. There being none, is there a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is closed. Thank you. Mayor, I'm turning it over to you.
Oh, look at that.
I'm done.
Good morning.
Can I
Good
go?
morning.
Still March 27th.
Be early.
Let us open up the Glens Falls Urban Renewal Agency meeting, if we can.
Urban renewal. Okay.
Urban Renewal.
Gotcha.
Let's see, we're going to, the first thing we do is open up the Governance and Audit Committee. Call to order the Urban Renewal Agency, to open the committee meetings, the annual report, and the monthly meeting. First up on our list is the Independent Auditor's Report, fiscal year 2024. Jean, turn it over to you.
Okay, great. All right, so everybody has the financial statements for the Glens Falls Urban Renewal Agency. A lot of ditto. Again, you'll see.
Ditto's okay with us.
Page 1 is the Independent Auditor's Report. Again, it says, in our opinion, the financial statements are present fairly the financial position of the Glens Falls Urban Renewal Agency as of December 31st, 2024. That is, again, an unqualified opinion and is the highest level of assurance that we give on financial statements. You know, in the letter, I've addressed it before, in the other pages of the letter, it basically discusses the auditor's responsibilities and the responsibilities of management. And those are standard. They've been the same the last few years. I think now this may be my 4th year doing urban renewal anyway.
It is, at least, yeah. Yeah.
Very impressive.
So, again, I can bring you to the overview. That's a management, that's not part of the audit, but that's just highlighting what's in the financial statements. Again, there isn't a lot of activity. You see there's a small amount of cash, there's a small amount of expenses that are accrued. Again, the primary there's no revenue in the primary expenses of urban renewal at this point is paying legal and accounting fees. And then in the footnotes, again, there's no changes in financial or accounting policies and procedures, so that would be similar to what's happened in the past. And then there's just reference in one of the footnotes to, you know, property, the one piece of property that that urban renewal still owns, which is a lot over on Dix Avenue. And as a requirement under GAAP, or under GAS, which is Government Accounting Standards, you have to do a report on internal controls. There were no findings on the internal controls, so that report's included as well. How can I say it differently?
No, don't say it differently.
No, I can say it. Going into the Jean Lappertramp.
Any questions for
Any
Jean
questions?
about the ditto?
I'm sure we'll be.
Not hearing any, do we have a motion to not accept, to
Yeah,
accept?
to
Oh, it is,
Right.
Oh, look at that. To accept the report?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Next up is our policies and procedures and internal controls. You had in front of you the packet, the review of the policies and procedures for urban renewal. There are no proposed policy changes for 2025 in any of the 3 sections. I think we've got the same 27 or procedures that with no changes. Questions? Comments? Not hearing any. Do we have a motion to accept these policies and update and non-updates and refer it to the full board for their consideration?
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next 2 items refer to the requirement of Urban Renewal Agency needs to identify both the location of our funds and our official news organizations where notices must be published. So C is the nomination of institutions for banking and public postings. One part of that section is the proposed depository of operational funds for Glens Falls National Bank.
Bill,
Yes?
we need to change that name.
Oh,
Arrow.
There is no Glens Falls National
It
Bank.
is
huh?
Arrow Bank, NA.
so noted.
Arrow Bank
N
NA.
period A period.
That would be if you hadn't corrected us.
We'd be putting it in a non-existing
That's right.
financial institution.
All right. And then the second piece is the proposed official newspaper of urban renewal, the Post-Star. Great news there.
Both of those are required
Yeah.
for an urban renewal agency. Both of those statements are required to be yearly be identified.
B state.
I don't think we need a motion, it's just a statement of
Right.
these things. So the next is a proposal of the slate of officers and committee members chosen for the year from March 31st to 25 to March 31st of 26. They are is nomination of urban renewal officers, staff, and legal counsel. And the chair is myself. The vice chair is Tim Larson. I was going to say Timothy. I didn't want to, like you're getting in trouble with your mother. And then treasurer Denise Conklin. Secretary Judy Calogero. The CEO continued to be Pat Dowd. CFO continued to be Mark Toomey. And our counsel with Carol Leyes and Fitzgerald, Morris, Baker, and Firth. Is there any thoughts, questions, comments about that? And so, we'll do together, we'll look also at the committee appointments and nominations, the governance and audit committees, and then we'll do a motion to approve all of them together in one. So, the A is the governance and audit, and so again, myself is the chair, Judy Calogero, and Tim Larson, Pat Dowd is the non-voting CEO. And then the property review committee would be Jane Reed, chair, Mary Gooden, Dr. John Cordes, and Pat Dowd, CEO, is now non-voting member there. Any questions about these committees? Or none of you are allowed to withdraw, just so you know. We're not allowing that. You can't pass a city resolution. I tried, but so are there any questions about it, or the depository, the official news organization, the board member nominations, or the committee nominations? Not hearing any. We have a motion to refer this to proposed slate of officers and committee members to the full board for their consideration and review.
Make a motion.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And then I don't believe we have any other businesses before the committee. And if not, if nobody has any, then we'll have a motion to adjourn the meeting of Governance and Audit Committee. Do I have a motion for such?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next up for us is the annual meeting of the Glens Falls Urban Renewal Agency. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's so funny, it's been such a long time since we had the election of officers and leadership, at least 30 seconds or more. Then we have the committee appointments, and since just a few moments ago everybody was okay with it, do we have a motion to accept the slate of officers and leadership as well as committee appointments approved by the nominating committee?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. C, the Paris report. We've already taken all 4 pieces of it for the 4 different organizations and discussed it. Anybody have any questions or concerns about moving that Paris report forward? Not hearing any, we'll move on. Members attendance report, as we did with the other agencies before us. We have the report the agency is sending to Paris is required as public authorities, as well as a meeting attendance policy that's also required. Any questions or suggested changes? If not, do we have a motion to accept the Paris report and members attendance report as presented?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Let's see. Next is the mission statement and performance measures, and then the policies, procedures, and internal controls. There are no changes, I believe, to this document this year.
No.
To any of those things. Do we have any questions? Do we have a motion to accept the reports as approved and forward without change by the governance and the audit committee?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next up, as we run through this quickly, yes, I ought to get a medal for this. Independent auditors report, fiscal year of 2024. Do we have a motion to accept the audit as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Any All in favor? Sorry.
Aye.
Getting ahead of myself. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I had to make the joke, didn't I? H, adjourn the annual meeting. Anybody else have any business to come in before Glens Falls Urban Renewal? If not, do we have a motion to adjourn the annual meeting of the Glens Falls Urban Renewal Agency?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We stand adjourned there. Next, we'll have the March 25 monthly meeting of the Glens Falls Urban Renewal. We have administrative reports under minutes. We had the regular meeting held on December 12th, 2024. Any corrections or questions or changes to the minutes? Not hearing any. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain?
One abstention. Thank you. Motion carries. Financial report, 2 months ending February 28, 25. Mark, you want to take over there?
No changes, just that we had a couple of accruals in December, which we reversed once the checks clear and probably later. That was it.
Fantastic. Any questions? Comments? Do we have a motion to approve the financial report?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I think you can skip the next item because with the full board at the annual meeting already approved the audit, so I don't think the monthly meeting now
Right,
needs to
right.
approve it as well.
No need to
No.
do the audit again?
No, that, I
All right.
mistakenly put that in.
So next up, Mark, is Schedule A.
Yep, three checks to make, Fitzgerald for $160, Column
sounded-
Software, the Post-Star,
Yes.
$32, and Russell Lewolski.
It's not
The
the
site
money
review
there.
for $6,000, total $6,176.
Great. Looks like some of
The
us
slate
had
of,
a...
slate of officers just different on mine. So I
That
bet you
might
it's
fit.
an old
There's
we have an
yeah.
old version.
I
Yeah.
made a bad copy, did I?
Is that
No,
right?
I think Jay and I did.
Okay.
First, second, just.
So the payment of bills, the 3 bills, sorry, will you do that one more time for us, Mark? Some of us don't have that right.
Fitzgerald for $160, Column Software, which is the Post-Star, meeting notice for $32.76, and then Russell Lewolski.
Lehoski, yeah.
Site reviews for 3 properties, $6,000. So $6,192.76.
Any questions about the scheduled payments? Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, thank you. I don't believe we have any other reports. I don't believe we have any other business. And I don't believe we need to go into executive session unless somebody thinks we do. If not, then do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next meeting is May 8th, 2025, here at 8 a.m., same bat time, same bat channel. One moment to switch piles. We're going to go to the Glens Falls Local Development Corporation. It is still March 27th.
It's still
Want me to
morning.
We still have the same members available.
Yeah, just do a bunch, yeah. Jeff, you want one?
Yeah, I don't know about any of it, but if the other people want one.
Yep.
No, thank you. Had enough for that.
You can have a paperclip too.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Very good.
Very good. So I'd like to begin with our committee meetings of the Local Development Corporation. So we call to order the Glens Falls Local Development Corporation, open the committee meetings, then the annual meeting, and then the monthly meeting. First up, our business today begins with a proposed slate of officers and committee members chosen for the year March 31st, 2025, March 31st, 2026. They are as follows. A is an election of officers for March 31st. I've already given you the dates. The chair is myself, Mayor Collins. The vice chair is Denise Conklin. The treasurer, Dr. John Cordes. The secretary, Judy Calagero. The CEO, Patrick Dowd. The CFO, Mark Toomey. And counsel, Carol Leas. And then under committee appointments, Again, the same dates, March 31st, 25 to March 31st, 26. Nominating committee is myself, Bill Collins, Jane Reed, and Mary Gooden. And then audit committee is Denise Conklin as chair, myself, John Cordis, Patrick Dowd, non-voting. And then under governance is Mary Gooden, the chair, Judy Calagero, Tim Larson, and Patrick Dowd. Patrick Dowd is non-voting. Are there any discussions of this slate of officers or committees?
Motion to approve it as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Any other business? I do not believe we have any other business before the nominating committee. I do not. If there is none, then I'd love a motion to adjourn the nominating committee.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So now we'll move on to the audit committee. We'll call the audit committee to order. Again, first up is the independent auditor's report. Jean Lapper.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Collins. Okay, so now we have the auditor's report and the financial statements for the Greater Glens Falls Local Development Corporation. I apologize that it's still in a draft form. This was our first year doing this audit. And
True.
has much more activity than the others. So the others, and yet, you know, we're able to, because of the overlapping boards and similar internal controls and similar things, you know, much of the work is able to be done independently, yet at the same time.
So it's still in draft, it's not final?
Yeah, but it'll be released today. It just hadn't been released by the time
Okay,
we all left yesterday.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
so,
As soon as we get back to the office, as long as there's no changes here, we'll
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
sure that it gets out.
yeah, it'll get out to you.
Okay.
So, okay. So yes, so it is still it's officially still in a draft form until it gets released, which I believe it's in my email when I get back to the office.
So we can't vote on it, or can we vote on it?
Can you check your email?
I can't, I don't have it on my phone.
Okay. Why don't we approve the draft and approve it in final form, assuming no
No
changes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so if
Yeah.
there's any
Yeah.
changes, you'll have to
You
reconfirm.
give us an email saying that
No
that there were
changes.
no
Yes.
changes?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Not just
Yeah.
sending us a
Yeah.
copy, but
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
confirm that
Yeah.
there's no change?
Yes,
Okay.
Yep.
yes.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep. Okay, so again, we'll get to the independent auditor's report, which again says, in our opinion, that financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects as of December 31st, 2024, as well as the statement of financial changes in financial position and cash flows. Again, the rest of the letter is all the required communications that we discussed. Remember, the financial statements are yours, the reports are ours. Okay, so we're reporting on your financial statements. And it just goes through, you know, basically what we're looking at in the performance of an audit. And we're required to communicate that to you, you know, in issuing a report. The other standard is also that by government auditing standards, that we also need to issue a report on your internal controls, which I'll get to. If you get to page 4, so obviously the LDC has a lot more activity than these other agencies that we talked about this morning. You can see that there was a big increase in cash this year. It was a combination of the sale of the South Street and Elm Street properties, as well as an infusion that came from ARPA funds from the city. Okay. The net position decreased because those buildings were sold at a loss, basically. So, so those are the two kind of key financial changes. Financial highlights, the word's right there. My throat is dry, but anyway, for the year, okay? If you go to, let's see, if you can see, we go through, you know, there's quite a bit of cash on hand right now. There's the property that you've been, page 7. The property that you've been talking about, the Tech Meadows, is on the balance sheet here. And then the only other significant liability is really, there is a USDA loan, as well as there's an amount, $143,000, that's due to the city, that has been in existence for a few years. If you look at the revenue, you can see some monies did come in, $150,000 for ARPA funding to the LDC, as well as there were some investments, so there's some interest as well. And other than that, I think that pretty much shows that the rest of the numbers are pretty much the same as what they were in the previous year. Okay. If you go through the notes, again, there's no changes, significant changes, or there aren't any changes in the accounting policies. Things are being recorded the same. I know, you know, there were adjustments in previous years that we didn't have this year. So then we can get down to the last piece, which is the report on the internal controls. So we do we did do an audit of the internal controls, and there was one finding in the internal controls, which was that there were some adjustments and reclassifications from the prior year audit that weren't booked. And that's something that we have to disclose to you. And especially as a new auditor, we have to rely on the numbers from the previous auditor. And there were a few closing entries that were never booked. So we've discussed it with the mayor, with Pat, with Mark, and just, you know, and there's a plan to correct that going forward. So it's not a significant thing, but it is something that we need to disclose and bring to your attention.
So to summarize that, it's not a financial problem, it's a process problem about making those changes at the end of the audit. It sounds great, but remember, we've had a lot of great success here where we've got Mark, our bookkeeper, working for us now in all of our audits, but Mark's not an accountant. So I would like to suggest that moving forward that we put out to bid and that we ask an accountant who would like to hire Gene, but I don't know if we have to go out to bid on that. I don't think we would need to.
We don't.
But I would like to have, like, quarterly, an accountant come and work with Mark to make sure that we're entering things in. A lot of our discussion when we talked about it, there are things about the way we classify things too, that again, a bookkeeper isn't necessarily, I don't want to say it, that just sounded negative to me. I don't mean it that way. I just mean that a bookkeeper is about putting in entries, and that an auditor, or excuse me, an accountant is about making sure they're classified in certain ways that prepares you for an audit. And if we had this simple work and providing support to Mark for all of our agencies, I think we would be in a position where we could be much more comfortable that we don't need to review things before we put it into an audit. Because that's all that this was, is hey, that entry wasn't made, those changes from last year's audit weren't put in to start this year's books. That's it. So, I mean, it's all there, it's all good, still an unqualified opinion, right, as far as the audit goes. So it's still good, but it just seemed to me as though that would be a great use of money for all four of them, is to have that kind of support system. Wouldn't cost very much money, and just a quarterly review and help us to classify things. Go ahead.
I think quarterly is fine, but I think that the most important thing is to have a review done 30 days after the audit is complete, to make sure that may not be on that quarterly basis schedule, but it's really that the month after the audit is done to make sure
Right.
that those adjustments are made.
Into the next
And
year.
so,
that
and
might
yeah, and the
count as the
audits-
first quarter, right? You could do that
Yeah,
and then
well,
do
Yeah,
the
it'd be
second
April,
quarter.
right, end
It
of
would be in
April.
April.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I would, yeah, and as long as it doesn't conflict with Jean being able to do the audit, I think that would be great. But to have that done, particularly, you know,
Right
30 to
after.
60 days after the audit is done is the most important.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yep. Yep.
Coming from a family of accountants, that's,
Do you come from a
Yes.
family of accountants?
My
That's
God.
great.
God help me.
I come from a family of non-accountants. Let's put it that way. I struggled with math for liberal arts. Any other thoughts, comments, questions? Do we?
Just to chime in, it all falls on me. You know, I've been through a number of year-end audits. I have my pre-list, my during list, and my post list. And I kind of failed on that post list. There were like, I think the 4 or 5 entries were flight on south, I think, converting the debt to current debt. I think there was an entry for reclass of my posting for IDA's duties to LDC for 40% of my salary from the account temps days. And then the other item was affecting the equity section, how we classify restricted versus unrestricted and the ARPA funds. So that's,
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
all been, we figured it out now, right?
Just
We've sorted through that.
And then I think before I kind of sent that little zip drive to Jean for all 4 agencies without kind of doing the final check on the LDC to make sure that ending equals the beginning of the trial balance. And that was my guffaw. I apologize, and you know, we'll correct it going forward.
Yep.
Great. Any other questions? Do we have a motion to accept the policy and procedures assessment and refer it to the full board for their?
Okay, we're doing the
We gotta
audit.
do the audit first,
Wow,
sorry.
I switched.
You're
Anyway, we have
rushing.
to accept the audit as presented,
Pending
So
the
we're
final.
gonna,
pending a final, there we go,
Yeah.
pending the final
release, yeah.
release.
yep,
Do we have a second?
Yes.
And that's with no changes to it.
Right.
If
No
so,
change,
we will
right.
have
Then
we'll
we'll
have an
present it
April
to
meeting.
them.
now
Yeah.
confirming no changes.
All right,
And we'll
confirming
get a
no
digital
changes.
copy of it too, great.
Great. We have a motion, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next is so let's see, is our internal controls and our procedures. Based on that conversation and understanding of all 4 small agencies could benefit from some support, I'd like to propose to the board that we bring an accounting assistance in on a quarterly basis, the first quarter being within 30 to 60 days after the final year's entries or audit. How's
When the
that?
audit's completed,
When the
yeah.
audit's completed.
And the adjusting entries are done.
And so we can make sure those are done in a timely manner. And is there any, so that's my proposal. Any questions, comments, thoughts? So we have a motion to engage an accountant for this work.
Are we naming Jean?
So what I think makes sense, if you'll excuse me for interrupting, Mayor, what I think makes sense is I'll go back and check with purchasing to figure out what the process is, and if we need to go out to an RFP, that's what we'll do. If not, then we'll ask Jean and maybe 1 or 2 others to give us proposals in order to do this. And then in the May meeting, we'll bring it back to the board with the idea that we'll have a proposal.
I don't think that you need to put it out. I think you
Okay,
just.
I don't think so either.
I think
Yeah.
you just need Jean to confirm that it doesn't conflict for her in doing our audit.
Okay,
And maybe give us a price, and then we can approve it probably next month.
All right.
okay.
Yeah.
And-
It
and-
doesn't need to go out. I
Exactly.
need to, I'm trying to look up and see if I can, but I don't know. I've got to look up the definition of how they define the
Gotcha.
independent auditor.
Gotcha. Well, I tell you what, then it's just the
I
concept of.
believe we could engage the independent auditor to assure that the audit findings are met
So,
without a conflict,
so my-
because they're their findings.
yeah,
But
my,
then
my
going
current role
forward,
in my engagement with you is to assist with the financial statements.
Yeah.
Okay, and which is why my name is not on the audit
Right.
report. Okay, so
That's right.
the other firm is doing the actual audit.
right,
report.
and then you're,
Okay.
right,
That's
so
right.
that's cool,
I have still maintained my independence in that, you know, I'm
right,
almost an agent
totally agree.
for them, but I can assist with the financial
Financial
statements.
statements, correct.
Okay, and that's the way.
And so we're just gonna
So
make that an
that's- yes.
ongoing relationship, not an annual
And what we would
relationship.
like, yes, so it just means, from my perspective, whether it's quarterly or just definitely coming in earlier to assist to make sure that things are ready for the
Beautiful.
auditor.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot that it's under the.
Right,
Yeah.
Kind of
Fantastic.
a closeout type of thing. after
Sure,
the
sure,
audit
like
report.
do it,
Either
yeah,
that
do
or
it
do it
after,
in November,
and then do
one or
it
the other.
again maybe,
Right.
yeah, because, so that you don't, it also should facilitate, the audit process.
yes,
Okay,
Yeah.
that, so.
Right.
um,
just enhanced
So
engagement.
what we'll ask for you.
Yeah,
from
I'll
you
need to
is an
figure
A
out
proposal?
a
Probably additional
proposal and
services
engage, you know,
request.
how many hours, what I think.
And,
you know,
and I don't, there's so little business between, by
The
the
other ones?
URI and the CDC, but possibly the IDA and the LDC are probably the
Mhm.
busiest of the two, would
Mhm.
probably be the ones that would need that.
Certainly, yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So we're not gonna make a motion, we'll let
Correct.
Gene give us
Yeah,
a
I'll-
Right,
proposal.
correct.
Ask you to
Um,
get,
There
Yes.
are no other changes to our internal controls or policies or procedures. So the question is, any discussion about those policies and procedures as they stand? Not hearing any, do we have a next week review our policies and procedures, if there's any questions, discussions, no changes from 2024. Do we have a motion to accept this policy and procedure assessment? And refer it to the full board for consideration.
So moved.
Thank you. Second.
Second, I'm part of the committee, but I just.
All in
did-
favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. I stepped all over that, so I'll try not to read the same sentence 3 times. Any other business that we have before our audit committee? If not, can we have a motion to adjourn a meeting of the audit committee?
So moved.
did we accepted,
We did.
Yep.
all right,
Yep,
so moved.
thank
Or
you.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I don't get a gold star for this meeting. Anyway, adjourn the audit committee. Now we'll open up the governance committee. We'll call the governance committee to order. First up is a performance goals and measurement report. In your packet, you have a copy of the performance measurements document. Are there any questions or is there any discussion about the performance measure documents?
It looks to me like there's no change, if you're confirming there's no change, in, our, policies and procedures, I think the performance goals that you've, listed for the 2024 year is fine.
Gotcha, yes. And then the next one is the assessment of the effectiveness of internal controls policy.
Yeah.
Again, no change there. And so do we have a motion to accept these without change? Do
So moved.
we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, thank you. Then next up is a review of our existing policies and procedures for the LDC, referring to the list in your packet.
Again,
no
no changes.
changes.
I move that we accept it as presented, that there be no changes.
Thank you. Any, do we have a second?
Who's on the governance committee? Tim, you're the only one who
Yeah,
can.
he just
seconded.
Okay.
Tim, second? All- There we go. All in favor?
Very valuable.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, thank you.
I mean, we're basically moving it forward to the annual meeting. so
Right.
it's
Right,
fine.
right, so, yeah.
And I do not believe we have any other business in front of the governance committee, so I'd like to
Yeah,
adjourn the meeting
you
of
go.
our governance committee. Gotta go, John?
Thanks, John.
Gotta go.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to adjourn the governance committee?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So now we'll go to the annual meeting of the Greater Glens Falls Local Development Corporation. We'll call the meeting to order. We've now moved forward the election of officers and leadership and the committee appointments. Do we have any questions? If not, do we have a motion to accept the slate of officers and leadership as well as the committee appointments as approved by the nominating committee?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. We've already moved forward the parish report with no changes regarding all 4 agencies. And then we have the members' attendance report, as we did with the other agencies before us. The report that the agency is sending to parish is required for public authorities. The meeting attendance policy is also required. Are there any questions or corrections to that? We made no changes to that either. Do we have a motion to accept the parish report and a member's attendance report as presented?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next up, we have the performance and goals measurements report, the assessment of the effective internal controls policy, and the existing policies and procedures with no changes, and move forward by the governance committee. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is the independent auditor's report for the fiscal year 2023.
Sorry.
2024. Look at that. It's a good thing you didn't write 2019. I read it that way. Do we have a motion to accept the audit as presented?
So moved.
In draft.
In draft?
Draft.
There we go, with no changes.
Draft to final, yeah.
Yeah,
Draft to-
draft to final. And we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And next is internal controls procedures. A motion to accept the internal controls and procedures report as approved and forwarded without change from the governance committee. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I do not believe we have any other business before the LDC unless somebody else has any. And if not, we have would like to entertain a motion to adjourn
The annual meeting.
the annual meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
We can excuse Jean, can we not?
Yes, I know.
God bless you.
Please stay. Need all the emotional support I can get. So next open is the March 20. Thank you, Jean, for all your work. Really appreciate it.
Well, I want to thank Mark and Jeff and Pat and Judy, for
Nice
being
office.
easy to work with.
She's got a lovely job.
Here.
What now?
Down south still?
Okay.
Yeah, but getting there is,
I
and
know.
parking is,
But in
you
the
know.
middle of, I know you're in the middle of a meeting, but I just have to share that one night week, one of those warm nights, I stepped out of my office, and yes, it's been not pleasant
Yeah.
where the traffic, the parking,
Yeah.
the ice, all of that has been challenging. But I walked out and the ed was lit up. And the top was lit up as well. And there was like a warm breeze, and I thought, oh my gosh, where am I?
That's lovely.
It
That's
was,
lovely.
It was
Yeah.
really, I really
Very
had
nice.
that like,
Very nice.
Yeah.
wow.
You didn't
So-
reminisce. I wish we had the old OTB back.
No, I said, I've been here
I missed the daily double.
I've been here for 4 years in that little building on the corner of Broad and South, and finally.
Yeah.
If you go to the office in the morning and the gate's open, just go tell the guy from the construction.
give you a hard hat.
To get the,
Yeah.
you don't have to wear a hard hat to go into that one,
Oh.
but he'll just tell him who you are and that you're the auditor and he'll let you in. It's so neat inside.
And he knows me. I park,
Yeah.
I park right there because they put these cones there and there's a space and people think the trucks used to be there, but now they pull into the into the lot itself, onto the lot.
Yeah.
So it's open every day.
He lets
They
me in.
saved it
He's-
for me
he's
after
a
all
nice
that
guy.
heartache for
Do
them.
not tell anybody that the
We're being
parking
recorded.
enforcement person goes down. Yes, we are, but that's okay. He just doesn't see it, Gene.
No, I don't want to give up my space.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure you'll send me an email if it gets given up, right? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Open up the March 25th monthly meeting, administrative reports and approvals and resolutions. And we have the meeting minutes were held on February 25th. Any corrections or changes to those minutes from the previous meeting? Not hearing any changes, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Under financial reports, 2 months ending February 28th, 2025. Mark?
All we had was the typical monthly insurance for $1,273 and 60% of my payroll in January for $902. Everything else was accrued for in December and then reversed in January and February.
Great.
That's it.
Any questions for Mark? Changes, suggestions? If not, we have a motion to approve to accept the financial report?
To approve.
To approve?
Right.
So moved.
So moved.
And I will second that.
All in favor? Sorry. I'm getting tired.
Yeah.
A motion to approve?
We
have the
that.
motion?
We're voting, so all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And so investment update, Mark?
I contacted the bank early this week and talked to Whitney, Berger, and Sabrina. The rate on the CDs, 90 and 180 days, $25,000 each is 4%. I couldn't move forward because I'm not authorized, so I gave that to Judy. Judy has to call or email either Whitney, probably Whitney Berger.
Or you can,
And
you and I, our signatures.
I just request that as an authorized signer on the LDC side, and then once that happens, I can go pick up the paperwork, get the proper signatures, transfer the money from relending, and
We can start earning interest.
Great. So just have Pat put it on my
Yep.
desk, okay?
Yep.
And I'll call. Or have Bernie call, transfer it in.
So
Okay.
there's no vote that needs for that, that's just a report.
Are we on the closing of the account thing?
Next, after the Schedule A.
We have to pay people.
Okay.
So now, next up, as we speak of the devil, Schedule A, Mark?
6 items, a couple CT mails for $1,360 and $960. Shelter point for animal disability, $126. Gerald bill for $304. My 60% of February, $907, and the Hartford annual workers' comp for $219, for a grand total of $3,876.28.
Thank you.
Have you confirmed that we're no longer covering insurance on 36L?
I made that call this morning to get our renewal policy. Tell them that all we have now are Tech Meadows.
Okay.
And the sale was dropped.
Okay, thank you.
I believe we have a letter that says that
Yeah.
we are done
We do.
paying
Okay.
that, but I can check that.
Okay, thank you.
So that check will probably have to be written in April. So we'll either have to, like we've done in the past, do a deposit and then monthly
The check
payments,
for, the
for
insurance.
the liability.
Okay.
Gotcha.
for Gallagher
Okay.
Insurance.
Without that, to answer your question, without that
Okay.
property,
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Well,
Okay.
actually two properties, right? Both 36L and,
And,
45 South,
and
yeah.
45
yeah,
South.
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
Great. So do we have a motion to approve, pay the bills?
So, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, thank you. Next is a resolution to close bank account and transfer remaining funds and operating, to operating.
Correct, yeah.
Resolution
The
which only
$20.
has $20.60 remaining, and transfer the remaining funds into the operating account. Any remaining billing for DRI project would be paid out of the operating fund.
So was this bank account, all DRI funds moved through this?
Yes.
Yes.
It was
So
set
all
up,
the state resources?
it was set
Not
up,
all DRI funds, I mean, the ones that.
the ones that the LDC managed, yeah. So the Arts District and GF Drive and,
Arts Trail.
So-
yeah.
And so the-
So and
so
those projects are all closed
They're
and
all
that grant is
out.
closed,
So you
yes.
sure you want to close this out? What if, okay, I'm just saying that,
Yeah, no, my goal was to streamline some of the reporting, but if there's a reason why you think we shouldn't, I'm
well,
happy to not.
I just didn't know that all, it seems like not all the DRI projects are complete.
Well, they're not, but the ones that ran through the LDC using this bank account are all done.
I guess the only reason there would be an issue is if, for some reason, there was some clawback provision, and if so, would those funds have to go back into this restricted account?
I don't
I
know.
guess you could open a new, if
Yeah.
Right.
that happened, I would just open a new account.
Right, this is not, right, this is an administrative function, this is not a legal function,
Yeah.
closing this account.
Right.
It just literally, as you said, makes the paperwork easier,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's not
yeah.
gonna
One
have any
less
effect
account that we have
on
to
our
deal with,
DRI.
that's all, yeah.
Okay.
And there's $20 in it,
Right.
so.
No, I understand the amount is not it. I just was concerned
Right.
that some of the money, that some of these
Liability,
projects
liability.
aren't completely done. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
And the reporting that we have to do to the state too, to, whatever.
Probably
Yeah.
a month or
Okay.
two if you
So-
don't-
Okay,
Yeah.
so actually
those-
that's, okay, go ahead, yep.
So
So-
with those, do we have a motion to close that bank account and approve the transfer?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, thank you. And I don't not believe we have any other reports. And then we've got the project report, resolution, crew coffee. Jeff, you kind of gave us an update, you want to give us another?
No,
Or
not for
Kara?
this, not for this agency.
We're all set? And then 36 Inc.
Oh, yeah.
Event and Market Center update, Jeff?
One thing I just will mention is that I just was meeting earlier this week with purchasing, the city's purchasing and engineering department to set up a proposal for the design services for 36 Inc. Those funds are in the budget that was approved last fall by the city council for the fit out of that space. So I'll keep you posted on that, to see where we go with the design firm.
And that's it. And then I don't believe we have any other business. I don't believe we need an executive session unless somebody has something I'm not aware of. And so then we'll take a motion to adjourn the March meeting of the Local Development Corporation.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye,
Thank you.
and thank you.
I'm just under,
So yes, we're meeting in April?
No, now we've,
No, now we're
no,
not.
now we don't have